I was overweight my entire life. I hated how I looked. I hated my reflection in the mirror. I literally would avoid seeing myself in a mirror. You might relate to this. I tried every diet, every workout plan, every quick fix, and nothing really stuck. But after years of trial and error, I think I finally figured it out and I've kept the weight off for good. I finally lost the weight and at least kept it off for a few years now. This isn't another fad diet. This isn't some extreme, super hardcore approach. This is something you're actually going to be able to do and stick to and lose the weight yourself. And this is exactly how I did it, step by step. Let's get into it. So this first point is, I think, a fat loss cheat code that I don't hear anyone talk about, at least not how I'm going to present it to you. I haven't heard a lot of people, talk about it like this. The mistake I made was that I thought endless cardio was the answer. Not endless cardio, but cardio was like the foundation of what would get me to my goals. And that's not necessarily wrong. I don't think there is a grain of truth to that. We are going to talk about cardio and how that played a role in my journey. But weightlifting is what really, and that's not like the answer here. I think there's a secret to it. Weightlifting is what really kind of gave my body shape and made me feel more muscular and athletic instead of just skinny fat or losing that fat. And then with only cardio, we're going to get into some of these things more. But I think I was really tired and exhausted all the time doing all that cardio. And so the weightlifting was the real answer. But I think it was how I changed the approach to weightlifting. Resistance training for me was the missing piece because of how hard I trained. So whenever I started, whenever throughout this whole time I've, resistance trained, it's just, I didn't work out extremely hard. I did it enough to try and keep my muscle instead of approaching close to failure and getting close to, 2 to 3 reps shy of failure, meaning like if I, was on rep 13 and I was going for 15 and the bar was really starting to slow down, I didn't know if I was going to get it. I was getting close to failure. I might try to grind it out to 15 and fail. Other times I would just stop at 13. But the point is I was working out hard. And especially whenever, and this is like an awesome key for you, I think, whenever you're new to lifting or new to that stimulus of working out that hard, new in the gym, whatever, your body will grow that muscle. Like you are so primed for muscle growth. And if you're already in a calorie deficit, where do you think the energy to build that muscle comes from? It has to be built from something, and that's going to be from your body fat. So it accelerates fat loss. It doesn't just keep your muscle, it actually speeds up your fat loss. With cardio, I'd lose weight, but I'd feel weak. I'd feel exhausted. And, my body would feel soft, if that makes sense. Every time I lost the weight, I would just gain it right back because unless you're willing to continue doing that level of cardio or that level of calorie deficit, it just isn't going to work long term. So every session I would push myself, I would push myself in the weight room in order to, get close to that failure mark. So I would adapt my workouts. If I couldn't get to the gym, I would use like Olympic rings in my basement, just hang them over a beam down there. They're pretty cheap on Amazon if you want to look into them. They're like, $30. I don't have an affiliate link for it or anything. But just Olympic rings hung in the basement. I would do something like that. And so no matter what, I would get my lifting in. I think the main mistake that I see in the gym, and I was making this as well, was just, not progressively overloading the weight. Kind of staying in that comfort zone. You might relate to this. You might not even realize you're doing this. But if, you look around in the gym, a lot of people, their last rep kind of looks sort of like their first to third rep. It doesn't look like it's getting super hard. So you want to be training until, I call them sticky reps. You want to be training until the bar speed slows down and gets a little bit sticky. And that's going to be pushing you into that muscle building zone where you're actually going to be getting like a harder, firmer look while losing that body fat. But no matter how much I lifted, of course, I realized that the diet is where the main thing is going to come into play. So this next tip is absolutely vital. So like most people, cravings are what derailed my diet. I would have a craving for something and it just kind of wouldn't leave. I have discovered, for me at least, my cravings killer, and it really works. People are loving it. It's totally free and I'm going to give it to you. So the thing that I'm, referencing is recipes. And I know that seems simple, but I have worked pretty hard on the recipes that I have in my recipe book that is totally free. It's in the pinned comment and link in the description. You sign up on my mail list and, you can get that sent to your inbox totally free. They are meal prep size meals. So it helps you have food in the fridge that you can pull out and have. They're so good. Some of them are, one of them is a protein mac and cheese. Another one that people seem to like is the white chicken chili and the Alfredo. All of it is, there's pasta in there and it is high protein, very filling, for what you're getting, very few calories. And it is just an awesome way that helped me really control my cravings. I tried eating clean. I'm not sure, if you have looked into this, but individual ingredient meals, right? So chicken, asparagus, and potatoes. And, that's good. Like, you can do that for a while. I just cannot, I don't know, maybe you can, but I cannot do that forever. It killed me. So I needed recipes, things like lasagna, things like power bowls, tacos, burritos, wraps, things like that. And that's all in the recipe book. The secret to these recipes, and the secret for me, was high protein and high fiber. It would take up a lot of space. That tends to be vegetables and lean meats and fat-free or very lean dairy. The combination of those things going into a recipe makes the volume really big. You can take the extreme of this and think of like a salad. Now, salads aren't in there because like it's not really a recipe. Maybe I should add some. But if you have a bunch of leafy greens and broccoli and, fat-free cheese and a chicken breast chopped up in there, like you're going to have a total of like 250 calories tops, and it is going to fill a big bowl. And it's going to fill you up. It's going to prevent you from wanting to eat anything more. It just takes time to eat too. Plus, your body takes time to break down that protein called the thermic effect of food that burns free calories just because you're eating, more protein. It's just a win-win-win. This whole cycle of meal prep and these recipes are really what did it for me. I was eating a lot of what felt good in the moment or what felt right in the moment. And that tends to be carbs, tends to be things that you can grab, from the pantry, a bar or something like that. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with those, like a granola bar. But it doesn't keep you full very long. It doesn't have a lot of fiber, doesn't have a lot of protein, so it doesn't spare the muscle and help build the muscle, which also accelerates the fat loss. And so for me, it just wasn't working. And so that's why these recipes, again, just really came in handy. Even the best high protein meals, though, wouldn't work if I wasn't prepared. And that's something that is absolutely key. And so this next tip has to do with being more prepared and how that helped me stay on my, on my goals. So I call this my habit that made fat loss automatic. And what I mean by that is like it took away the mental exhaustion, the mental decision making of what am I going to eat in this moment, and it helped me so much, and I think it's going to help you as well. So I would always go for junk, go for those quick carbs, like I said in the past tip. So for me, meal prep was the key to it, and although that bleeds so much into the previous point, because I was talking about recipes and how in my cookbook they're meal prep sized recipes. So you're not just making a meal for dinner that night. It's going to make 8, 9, 10, 11 meals. You can always, cut the ingredients in half if you just can't eat that much food. But I would make 2 or 3 of the recipes from my book, and they're pretty simple. It's not like I'm a chef or anything. And it lasts literally all week. I mean, in the fridge right now, I think we have too many meals before the next meal prep. So I'm going to have to freeze some because I just don't want to waste the food. Whenever I was winging it, I just never felt like making food in that moment. And then whenever you're tired and you are tempted by something else to eat, whether it's grabbing food on the way home or whatever, it's hard to not grab the food, at least for me, whenever that, I have to go home and make something that sucks. And so being able to pull something really good out of the fridge, that's the key. It's not just pulling something out of the fridge that's prepared. That could be chicken, broccoli, and rice. It is a delicious meal. And so knowing that you get to go home and have a Mexican lasagna, I'm pretty sure that one's in the cookbook already. It's so good. And why stop whenever you have something really good at home that you can just heat up in the microwave real quick, and it is really actually tasty. So for me, I prepped everything. I'm going to read off my phone here some of these notes. I prepped everything on the weekend. So one session, it would be done for the entire week. It would take me, 2 to 3 hours to prep the 2 to 3 meals, and about an hour each. And that wasn't like watching it the whole time. That's like putting it in the oven or something, So it's pretty easy. In my meal prep, I would also, small things count as like meal prep. So protein bars, fruit, pre-cut veggies. For one of the meals that I just added to the cookbook, I use like crinkle carrots. They're already cut for you and everything. And I know you pay a little extra for them, but it's just nice. It's super convenient recipes. You don't have to do that. You can cut them yourself if you want. But the frozen vegetables, things like that, anything like that, would save time and help with this meal prep process. But I think my meal prep only worked because I was staying so active. And, the other side of the equation is the calories outside of the equation. I'm going to let you know what I did now with that side of things. So this is how I burned fat without burning out. And this is where cardio comes back into play, but it's a little bit different than I was treating it before. So for me, steps were very important. So I used to overdo cardio, and like I just did cardio, and it would be on the higher intensity of things. I would feel exhausted. It would be very unpleasant, and so I didn't look forward to it at all. And, it was too easy to just come up with an excuse and not do it that day. So I really focused on steps first, and then I added controlled cardio, but really that cardio was just more steps. It was low intensity, steady state, zone 2 type cardio on a treadmill or around a track, or, on the Stairmaster, just a really slow level 2, level 3, just to get those steps. I mean, it was probably burning more calories than just regular steps, but it wasn't super intense cardio like I was doing before. So this is how I built my cardio routine. I started small. At first, I would just walk, literally, whether it was like going into the store and taking extra laps around or whatever. My goal was just to increase steps until I found my limit. So I found that my limit, not my limit, but on an average day, was about 14,000 steps per day. Now that might seem excessively high to you. You don't need 14,000 steps a day, and that's totally fine. It's wherever you're at. Imagine if you only right now walk 3,000 steps a day and you could somehow increase that to 5, 6, 7, 8. You're going to be increasing your calorie burn a whole lot from your baseline. And as long as your calories don't match that, and using my past tips and everything, I don't think it's going to be a problem for you to, just start losing fat automatically. So that's how I, didn't burn out, was that it just wasn't super intense. It was just being intentional. Instead of adding something that was dreadful, it was just, taking more steps. But then, the weight loss is going to slow down. So I started adding cardio gradually. But like I said, it was really just adding more steps. But I added 15 minutes a day and slowly worked up to 40 minutes a day, 5 to 6 days a week. So even though that might sound like a lot of cardio, again, just remember, this is not like I'm stepping on the elliptical and doing a really hard cardio workout. If I was going to go on the elliptical, it would be slow and steady, just kind of increasing my steps, using the elliptical to go a little bit faster than I might otherwise go around the neighborhood. But it was just increasing my steps and my overall movement. I found what worked for me. For me, it was the treadmill and the Stairmaster. They held me the most accountable because I could just kind of zone out, listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something. And then on like a bike and elliptical where you can control the speed, let's say you're at like a level 3 and your fitness now allows you to do a level 5. That would mean that you're burning more calories because you're working harder. But if you accidentally slow down, because it's harder, then are you burning more calories? It kind of confused me. So, I mean, I bet you were, I bet you would be. But just to make sure of that, the treadmill and the Stairmaster, if you set that to, a 3% incline at 3 miles an hour, and then you build up to an 8% incline at 3 miles an hour, you're not accidentally slowing down. You're still going 3 miles an hour. You have to, or you're going to fall off. Same thing with the Stairmaster. So those are what work best for me. I'm sure that, anything would work. My clients use, all kinds of things, whatever they enjoy. I think that's the key, is you have to enjoy it. The main thing that is, the summary of this point is that it's NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Really increasing that is what allowed me to eat more. Combine that with the protein, meaning my meals were physically bigger. I was just eating so much and yet still losing weight. And that's what I think really was the key for me. So I wasn't blindly doing cardio and just like hoping for the best. I tracked everything, and that is so key. You can't just do cardio and you can't just follow this up to this point and hope for the best. It'll probably work for you up to a certain point, but tracking is really, really going to help in being able to make adjustments based off that tracking. So I'm going to tell you kind of how I adjusted. So this is how I made my real adjustments. It was daily weigh-ins. The scale kind of used to stress me out, and you might think that daily weigh-ins would just make that worse. But whenever you're weighing in daily, it kind of starts to lose its power. You see it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. It doesn't really, a spike up doesn't matter because it's just going to spike down the next day or whatever. So the more often you weigh, the easier it is to see a pattern. And the pattern is what matters. Even if a spike up happened, you could zoom out to 7 days, 30 days and see, well, I'm clearly on the way down. Even if this last day went up, it obviously is not the truth, But that's the same thing on the way down. If you see that your weight went way down that day, it's like, oh, well, it's probably not that far down. It's just following this pattern of going down. And as long as it was going down, I just stuck with it. The scale's kind of like the stock market. If you've ever invested money and you look at the little app or whatever and you see it's going down, you're kind of freaking out because you're literally losing money by the second. If you just let it sit there, everyone ends up gaining money. I'm not an investment person, but if you just put your money into, stocks and mutual funds and what do they call it, an index fund, just something that's like follows the market always goes up. I heard, I don't know if this is true, I'm sure it is, that after 2008, if everyone just would have stayed in the market instead of pulling out all their money, they would have 3 times the money they had back then. And that's without investing a single penny more. The point is that we can't freak out and make adjustments based off those. So following the pattern really, really helps. So my weight fluctuated every single day. Your weight's going to fluctuate every single day. Some days it's water, some days it's digestion. It could be muscle glycogen, and in your muscles if you worked out really hard. If it could be muscle swelling. where it's holding more muscle because you worked out really hard, or sorry, holding more water because you worked out really hard and you have some internal swelling in the muscles. It doesn't mean anything on its own. It's all about the pattern. So I stopped overreacting. If my weight stayed the same for a full week, then I'd adjust my calories or increase my steps. So as long as it was the same and the pattern was flat for a week, that's whenever I would make an adjustment. It would just be a small adjustment. I wasn't in a rush. And I think that's super key for my, this time I wasn't in a rush, and that really helped. I should have made that its own point. But if I ever saw a spike down or up, I'd look at my weekly and monthly trends and not the daily trend. You zoom out a little bit. It's nice to have those daily or close to daily weigh-ins, because you would see that most of the time, or I would see at least, that I was making progress, and as long as most of the time you're making progress, even if there are some flat times, overall, you're going to be down. It's not going to take very long at all to reach your goals. But no matter how dialed in everything was, it was really just about being consistent and sticking with it. If you want to know a little bit more about how to actually dial in all of these aspects, I talk about that here in this video. That's called my dial system that I use with all my clients. It works really well. It's basically what I talked about here, just in more details about how you can adjust it for you.